All right, everyone. So today we're going to focus on our shape unit. We'll have gone through the PowerPoint at this point during class, during the Zoom meeting, as well as do a little activity involving ovals. So at this point, you should be starting to work on your hand project. So I'm going to show you how to break down a hand. There are obviously various techniques. You may have learned it a different way if you've taken art classes previously. If you have not, though, feel free to follow this technique. Obviously, there's other tutorials on YouTube, or like I said, you may have learned differently, but this is how I like to teach how to break down a hand into the basic shapes and components, okay? So, get you a little closer. So, if we're looking at our hand, okay, front and back, basic hand, if you look really close, I'm trying to get this in the mirror, you kind of see how these little, you see these lines right here in our hands, okay? Each finger normally has 3, except for the thumb. Now, if your thumb's really long, you may have 3, but most people only have 2 in their thumb. So, you see these lines, if we flip over, we can even see how the finger's broken up into sections on the back of our hand as well. Okay, so everybody see that. So, this is an organic shape, which we'll talk about this more when we get into figure drawings towards the end of this unit. So our hands are an organic shape, okay? We're going to break them down into geometrical shapes. We're going to take it from an organic to a geometric shape, back to an organic, okay? So I'm going to start with the basic hand position, just, like this. So if you look at your palm, it's also very important during this project when you're drawing the hands, especially when we get to the final part, that you look at your hand and what you're drawing. Do not find an image on Google. Do not draw a cartoon hand. It needs to be your hand that you're drawing. So, if we break down the hand, okay, we're going to start with our palm. Your palm should be kind of a squared shape. So, you can choose 2 shapes. You can make it a square shape, or you can make it kind of a half square shape, okay? That should be your palm right there, okay? Separate these out a little bit so you can see the 2 differences. Really, that's the only difference is the palm, okay? And make sure you're drawing it proportionally. I'm drawing mine a little bit larger so that you guys can see everything, okay? So now, look at the placement of your fingers, okay? Your thumb is not necessarily any shorter than probably your pinky, but where it is placed on the hand, because it normally sits lower unless, like I said, your finger, some people's fingers will differ slightly. Some people may have a longer thumb, okay? But for the most part, even if your thumb is kind of long or slender, you're still going to sit lower than the rest of these, okay? So we know our thumb has 2 portions, okay, 2 sections to it. So here on my hand, I'm going to draw using ovals, which this will make more sense from the activity we do on Zoom, okay. Draw 2 ovals for my thumbs. I'm going to do it on this one as well, same thing, kind of sit tucked in there, okay. If your finger's really short, you may have more of a circle. I still would like you to use more of an oval here, though. Circles can get a little complicated, okay? Now moving to our fingers. Your index and your ring finger are more than likely always the same size. One may be slightly longer than the other, but for the most part, these are the same size. Your middle finger is always the longest, okay? And then once again, similar to your thumb, your pinky, if you look at your hand, it kind of dips down, okay, as it goes towards your pinky. So it's not that the pinky is really any shorter, it's just its placement on the hand and how it sits lower. You can see it on the back side too, okay? We see how the bottoms of these all kind of line up, and then this one drops a little bit. Obviously the thumb drops significantly, this one drops a little bit more, okay? So let's go ahead and add in our fingers. So I've got my index finger, I've got my middle finger. Think about proportions here and scale. Okay, so my pinky, you might want to start a little lower, depending on how the significance of a difference is. Some people's may be a little closer, some people's may be a lot shorter, so look at your hand when you're drawing, or if you're going to draw somebody else's hand, it needs to be from observation, okay? I'll draw it over here as well. Also think about the size of your fingers when you're drawing. If you've got thicker fingers, you should have a thicker oval. If you've got slender fingers, okay, should be thinner, okay? So think about that. Make sure, make this a little taller. Make sure you are not doing this. If this is my hand here, don't do this. That's a weird smiley face from Walmart having a bad hair day, okay? Don't do that. It's like the coronavirus exploding. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that, okay? Make sure, so we see now, taking my organic can, okay, kind of holding it next to it so you can see. You see my organic can? See, I've broken it down. This one's probably a little bit bigger, but I just wanted to show you the different. So I'm going to go more with this model right here with the square hand, okay? We see my hand. See my organic can, see my geometric can. Now, once again, this is very step-by-step process. Your process may be a little different, your technique, and I'm okay with that, okay? Now, you want to add in a little bit of your wrist here. You want to start to define this hand a little bit more. So now we've transformed it from organic to geometric. Now we're going back to organic, okay? I'm going to do mine on the inside so you can see that part. So draw very, very lightly when you do this part because you're going to be doing a lot of erasing if you do this technique, okay? So now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to start to carve my hand out. I'm going to use red. You can just keep using your pencil. Okay, normally your thumb has a little part that kind of sticks out right there. Some people's may be more prominent than others. Okay, I'm going to add my wrist in. Okay, I'm going to go up here, start to curl my fingers out. Bring that in. Make sure your wrist is not too skinny or thin. Obviously, it sits in a little bit on your hand, but make sure you're not doing this, okay? Make sure it's still proportional to your hand. Oops. Okay, there's my wrist, okay? So now, I want to go back in. You can leave these lines if you draw them light, especially when you're just practicing. Okay. My thumb is a little off, so I'm going to go back in and I'm going to fix that. But you can see how it helped me make everything proportional. Okay. Like I said, you might need to go back in and shave a little off or add a little bit to it, okay? So now I'm going to go in and add the lines, the fingers, the lines in my hand. They do not necessarily connect, okay? And then the thumb kind of comes like that. Don't forget fingernails if you see them, okay? If your fingernails are really long, they may come over the top of the nails, especially if we're looking at the hand like this. If it's the opposite way, make sure that the nail beds are seen, okay? Now with the nail beds, if this is your finger here, and you're looking at this side of your hand, okay, you do not, your nail, unless you have a real wonky nail, does not take up the whole thing, normally, like I said. Everybody's fingers are a little different, but if you look, you normally have a little bit of flesh on either side. I'm trying to do this backwards, okay, that you see. So make sure you've got that finger, even if your nails are not long, that doesn't matter. So I'm going to show you one with a long nail and one with a short nail, okay? This is long, this is short. Now maybe if you have fake nails or some kind of glue-ons or something for the females, you may vary slightly in seeing flesh on each side, but you should still, if you have a good nail person, you should still see that. So if it's long, okay, kind of see, and then depending on how long the nail is, okay, we still, obviously I'm using a marker, but you kind of see how, you see how there's still a little bit of flesh showing on each side. Let's say that those dark black lines are flesh on each side. And then for the short nails, if you've got kind of short nails like mine, or if you have real stubby nails, you're still going to do the same thing, okay, but your nail may stop there. Does that make sense? And then we've got, okay, fingers, maybe you have a ring on, etc. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now, you are welcome to use this hand position. You're going to do 3 hands total. Let me show you my little example. So for your final, especially those of you who have paper at home, you're going to do a 12 by 18 paper with the 3, okay? The hand drawings will be done in pencil or some kind of graphite. Do not color the hands. I don't want to see any of the flesh colored. You can shade it, like she did a really good job shading hers and adding a little bit of depth and dimension. Same thing here. She used more of a line technique. She did shade a little bit, but she used a little bit of value, some hatching and cross hatching to show hers. Okay, but then you see the nice colored background. Okay. So those of you who do not have larger paper, I would like you to do 1 in your sketchbook on each page, depending on how big your sketchbook is. If you have a bigger piece of paper, you can feel free to break it up like this. But if your sketchbook's like an average size, you can maybe get 2 on 1 page, but don't do any more than 2, okay? Because I really want to see the detail. I don't want you to be drawing teeny tiny little hands that are like this, okay? So, now, you've seen just kind of breaking down a basic hand. So if you want to, well, I mean, you're going to have to. So you saw that they had 3 different hand positions. So one of your positions can be just a hand like this. Okay, she kind of added a little bit of depth to hers by bending her fingers. Okay, you're going to be looking at your hand, so it's not like it's going to go away or change much. But if you do this part of your hand, you can't turn around and do the back. You can only do one of these, whether it's the front view or the back view, okay? Even hers, so this one, she kind of bent the fingers a little bit, and this one, okay, she put all fingers down except the one. Kind of brought that in, I guess, a little bit. So they're still kind of similar, but not really, because you've got different depth, you've got different curves, you've got different bends in the fingers. Hers are a little bit more different, each of them. Okay, this one, her palm is open, but her fingers are curled. This one, she's kind of doing the rock star or the NC State symbol. And then this one, she's kind of got all fingers bent slightly. Okay, so these are some really good examples. I'll upload these into the thing. So let's say you want to do a fist. Okay, you're still going to do the same thing. You're going to break down that shape. Okay. So if you want to do this part of the fist, I don't think the back would probably be as interesting to do. I think it would be more interesting to see the front here. If you want to tuck the thumb, if you want to leave it out, if you want to kind of leave it relaxed. So I'm going to do a tight fist so you can kind of see, okay? Still the same thing. We're still breaking it down. I'm trying to just see this view right here. Okay, so I've got mine. Now this, your palm size is still not going to change, even though it's smaller. Okay, your palm doesn't change sizes, okay? So, got my palm here, okay? Looking at my hand. So now I may only have 1 or 2 bends. So we see my pinky, we see my ring finger, we see my middle finger, and we see my index finger. Now my thumb is actually going to be one of the tallest. Okay, so we see this little section here, and then it kind of wraps and sits right here. Okay, so we see we've broken down that shape once again. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to start to carve it out, start to define it a little bit more. Okay. Make sure that you give those top fingers, your fingers, we see these little kind of ridges or hills or bumps up here, okay? It's not straight across. I mean, it can be a little bit, but you're still going to have those little bumps where your knuckles are at, okay? So you want to make sure you're bringing that up, okay? So we see all the fingers connecting. This one's kind of like that. And we've got the thumb. This is real prominent because of the way it's sticking out. Okay. I would show a little bit of flesh over here on that one side so you can see where that pinky finger connects back to the hands. Because if you just go like this, it's going to look very flat. So you want to add that little bit of connection over here. Okay. So now we go back in. A little erasing. I probably need to fix my thumb a little more. Okay, we kind of hopefully can see the shape that I'm trying to make for the most part. Okay, thumb kind of comes in again right here. Kind of see that meaty part. Okay, so maybe my thumb needs to come down a little bit. Maybe it needs to come across a little bit more. I'm just going to leave it where it's at actually right now, but as you get into it more, you can determine that. Okay, we see my knuckles. You may or may not see the nail. You might see a portion of the nails. You'll have to determine that. Then you see how there's a little bit of shading under there when you add that pencil. Okay, you kind of see that little shadow right there. That'll also make it look more three-dimensional. I know we haven't really studied a lot of value, but we should be working to make our hands look three-dimensional even though they're on a 2D surface. Okay, we remember that when we talked about shape. You might see a portion of the nail here. Okay, this is not the best example, but I'm just trying to show you how to break down your hand. Obviously, it would be a little easier if I could just show you directly on paper. So I'm trying to make these videos somewhat worth it. Okay? So be mindful of that. So what you're going to do for your assignment is you're going to come up with 5 hand positions. Like I said, you can do one like this, but you can only do the front or the front of your, I guess front, back of your hand. You can only do one side of this hand, okay? So you can make a fist, you can do a peace sign, you can do a rock star sign, you can kind of just lay your hand, okay? Make it casual, but you need to come up with 5 different ones. 5. These are just little thumbnail sketches, kind of like how you do your daily sketches. So if you want to break up your paper and do a little thumbnail sketch of 5 different hand positions, that would be great. You're going to email those to me, or preferably on the Zoom meeting, turn on your camera, show me what you've done so I can critique it and analyze it, and we're going to break down which 3 you're going to choose for your final. Once you decide which 3 you're going to do, then you're going to enlarge those drawings so that you have 3 final hand drawings, either on this 12 by 18 paper or done proportionally in your sketchbooks, okay? Remember, the hands, the flesh part and the hands need to only be done in pencil. Do not color the hands. Background will be a color of your choice. She kind of did rainbow colors, kind of warm colors and cool colors, kind of taking that rainbow across, kind of just made it sketchy and put her focus and detail on the hands. Hers, she kind of repeats that, I don't know if you can see it, she kind of repeats that hatching and cross-hatching technique in the background, but she does it very lightly so that the focus is still on those hands right there. Okay? This is your project that you're going to be working on. Don't turn this in. Don't even start on it until I have checked your 5 hand drawings. If you have questions, if you need me to demonstrate more, or you're very confused about something with how to either break down the shapes, or confused about maybe what hand positions you want to choose, please let me know. Okay? Have a great day.